Verify This. Building trust in a world of data breaches and digital threats, one episode at a time. Ooh, yeah. You know that feeling, right, when you're staring at the screen and you just can't remember which combo of, like upper and lower case and all those crazy symbols is going to get you into your account?
Oh, yeah.
Passwords, man. It's a love-hate relationship.
You can say that again.
But the cool thing is, on this deep dive, we're not just going to sit here and complain about passwords.
Right.
We're actually going to talk about what's replacing them.
Exactly.
We're going to be looking at biometrics and AI and really how it's like changing the entire landscape of digital security.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because it feels like it's not just slowing down. It's actually like speeding up this whole shift away from passwords.
Definitely picking up steam.
Yeah, and the reason is I think that passwords just don't cut it anymore,
Yeah.
Especially when you think about how sophisticated cyber threats are getting. We're talking about deepfakes, we're talking about AI-powered fraud. It's becoming almost impossible to tell what's real and what's fake.
It's getting really blurry.
It is.
Okay, well, that's where I start to get a little bit, creeped out.
Yeah.
So before we, totally, descend into, digital dystopia land.
Right.
Let's talk about some of the promising solutions, and I think one of the most exciting ones is voice biometrics.
Yeah.
So for anybody who's not familiar with that, can you just break down what it is and how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. So voice biometrics, it basically analyzes the unique characteristics of your voice.
Okay.
So you can kind of think of it like a fingerprint, but for your vocal cords.
Interesting.
And it can actually verify your identity with an accuracy that's mind-blowing over 99%. And it does all this using just a couple of seconds of you just talking normally.
So it's not like I have to read a specific passage or anything. It's just analyzing how I say things, not necessarily what I'm saying.
That's exactly it. It's looking at things like the shape of your vocal tract, your pitch, your tone, all of those little subtle things that make your voice unique.
Yeah, that make you...
Exactly. And what's really neat is that it combines this super strong security with being really easy to use.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So no more racking your brain trying to remember those crazy passwords.
Right.
You just literally speak and you're in.
That's so convenient.
It is.
But okay, let's talk about the big scary thing in the room.
Sure.
Security.
Yeah.
Can voice biometrics actually hold its own against these really sophisticated attacks, especially as AI keeps getting more and more advanced?
Yeah. That's a totally valid concern.
Yeah.
And I think this is really where voice biometrics shines.
Okay.
Because unlike passwords that can be stolen or hacked,
Right.
your voice is really, really tough to fake.
Okay.
Even with all this fancy AI, it's hard for them to create a fake voice that's convincing enough.
Got it.
Especially when you factor in that these systems, they're always analyzing, they're always adapting. So it's not just a one-time snapshot of your voice.
It's constantly learning.
It's evolving, it's learning, and it's getting better at figuring out what's real and what's fake.
So it's almost using AI to fight AI in a way.
It is. It's kind of like fighting fire with fire.
I love that.
It's pretty cool.
You mentioned earlier that voice biometrics is part of a bigger picture.
Right.
What did you mean by that?
Well, for starters, it's super versatile.
Okay.
You can use it for all sorts of things, like phone calls, mobile apps, even smart home devices.
Wow.
It can work across all these different channels, and that's really important in our world today where everything's connected.
Yeah. Everything's talking to everything else these days.
Right, exactly. And it also really strengthens identity management because we're moving away from these big central databases that are these honeypots for hackers.
Right.
And moving towards a system that's more spread out where your voice is basically your key.
So it's less risky in a way.
It is. It's a lot less risky.
Okay. But what about some of the potential downsides?
Yeah.
We've got to talk about things like privacy and accessibility.
Absolutely. Those are super important. And when it comes to privacy, it's crucial that any voice data is stored and handled really carefully.
Right.
With strong encryption and making sure the user is okay with it.
User consent is huge.
It is. And when it comes to accessibility, the industry is actually working on finding other biometric options for people who maybe have speech impairments.
Okay.
So things like facial recognition or iris scanning are being explored.
That's great.
These areas are still developing, but there's a big focus on making sure that as this technology keeps growing, it's inclusive.
That's really good to hear. I love that.
Yeah, it's really promising.
So now I'm curious to hear from our listeners. Have you guys encountered biometric technology out there in the wild?
Yeah.
What are you thinking about it? Are you excited? Are you concerned?
What are your experiences?
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah. And, it makes me wonder if passwords do eventually become a thing of the past?
right?
What does that mean for our digital identities? Like, is our voice going to be our passport to this whole digital world?
That is a very thought-provoking question.
It really is.
And for anyone out there who's interested in seeing voice biometrics in action,
Yeah.
definitely check out V2 Verify.
They're doing some really cool things.
They're really leading the charge in this space.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, for our next deep dive, we're going a little bit darker.
Oh.
We're going to be looking at hacking in 2025. What's coming next?
Oh, wow.
So buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride.
Can't
Bye.
wait.
Bye.
See you then.